go.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of ASCII Anything, brought to you by Moser Consulting. I'm your host, Angel Leon, Moser's Director of Personnel, and we're glad that you're with us for this episode of ASCII Anything, because today we're bringing back the data management as a service, guys.
Yeah, the conversation was just way too chock full of goodness to fit in one episode, so I found a pretty decent spot to cut it in half, and so we're bringing you part 2 this week.
Yeah, those guys had a lot of fun, and so did we in recording that episode, so we thought it'd be best if we split them up. So without further ado, here are Brett Canova, Tony Wilhelm, and Brian Woolwine. They're back with data management as a service. Speaking of challenges, and this is a challenge that I feel is something that everyone, not just in the DMaaS side of the world, but really in all of our jobs, how do you see the role of AI and machine learning in the context of DMaaS? Because that is probably a challenge in and of itself for you guys.
So I think the way I've seen it is that our role is to help people find ways to use it best. AI in particular has become, everybody wanted it, and then unfortunately everybody realized how much it costs. It is not cheap. So it's in our best interest to help our client find what actually works for them, what actually they're going to get out of it and use with it. I know Moser, actually, one of the biggest things we do is we help companies just for right now. So we help them decide on the governance of it. What can they use within their business and what can't they use? What chat bots, what AI generators, you name it. We try to help them protect themselves from what they don't know. So on the data side, machine learning, I think slowly getting into, but for the most part, it's our best role just to help bring them in slowly so that they understand that it's not cheap to do it. And we're going to help them find the best ways possible going forward without mortgaging an entire company and its future in an effort to be new and modern.
So you're going to start to see more of it baked into existing products. I know the newest version of SQL Server coming out is supposed to get more intelligent query processing and that kind of stuff, where it's actually starting to using some of its AI and some of the knowledge that it already knows of your data to be able to run the queries more efficiently, or add in indexes to help the queries run more efficiently. So we're going to see that, but it's not going to be an end all to be all, be all to end all kind of thing. It's just going to be another tool in our toolbox to help us through.
Yeah, I would agree to that point of it's a tool in the toolbox, and not just a tool that we use for our toolbox, but also from the client side. I know kind of using those, the chat bots, the chat GPTs of today, sometimes you can use those as templates for how to write SQL code and things of that nature. But we're always going to stress, that can help your efficiency for sure. But trust but verify everything that you get when you go into those chat GPTs and you ask, hey, I'm trying to write a query that solves this problem or, gets to this end goal. Yeah, that's great. It will help. But again, you want to make sure that you're doing your due diligence to not take it as that's 100% gospel, so to speak. So making sure that you're checking the code that it's outputting, making sure that you're thinking in terms of efficiency. So, you may get something that works, but is it the quickest way that your query runs? Is it the most efficient way that your query runs? That, I think, is what I see kind of our jobs of evolving with is, as those tasks, as people try to become more efficient with those, it'll be kind of our continual job to, to keep performance in mind and to say, that does achieve your end goal, but how can we make this more efficient? How can we make this quicker? So I see those two things kind of evolving hand in hand in terms of AI and what we do. So it's not always necessarily the product that the company is adopting. Sometimes it's the day-to-day lives of the employees and how they use things to become a little bit more efficient for themselves, and how we're interwoven in that process of helping them, like I said, trust, but verify that it is, kind of the optimal thing that you're looking for if you're trying to improve some efficiency from your day-to-day.
Yeah, like what you said, that a tool in your toolbox, kind of like an extension of what you guys are already doing. Just we've discussed this in the past on the podcast, how AI really is that a little bit of an extension, maybe a self-starter kind of a thing that you can use to just point and then go and see where it takes you. So I can see where you guys are coming from. So let's talk about a success story. Can you guys share a success story about where DMaaS has significantly improved a company's data management strategy?
We picked up a new client, and their end of month processing was taking several days to do their end of month processing. And it shouldn't have. The data set wasn't that big. It wasn't, there was no reason for it to take that long. We started taking a look at things and found out, oh, we can take this one query that's running forever and one little tweak to it, and now their end of month processing runs in half a day. It freed up basically almost a whole week of their time.
One of the coolest ones, I think, is we worked with a little engineering company that had a very old SQL Server, and they wanted to upgrade it to essentially the most modern. And Tony was on the project with us. The coolest part of it was we did that. We took it through 2 steps so that they could validate as they went. But the coolest part of it was that as we went, they validated everywhere they went. We held hands where it needed to go. We let them be where they needed to go. And then the coolest part of it was, though, is along the way, because in the background we were building this and testing it, so their older version of the production was still running, and every once in a while they had a blip with their production. One time it was down, another time it was slow, and they had so much trust in us that they called us and called Tony, and had Tony come in, just log in and take a look at it and see what he could do to fix their production issue. And every time he did. Now, since upgrading, I think they haven't had one, or maybe they've only had one where it was running slow. But that's the coolest part, is that in this year-long process of upgrading, 6-month-long process to upgrade, we jumped in and helped in places we weren't even supposed to help. And that was the coolest thing, was, we still stay in touch today. We send an email every once in a while to catch up. They haven't had a need for us. They're small enough. They hadn't had need for us in a little while to do any work. But along the way, we kept them up and running on their old system while we upgraded the other one. And like I said, now they're up and running, and they're doing great, and everything's on the most modern and most secure systems. And I thought that one was really cool, because it's not by any means the most robust project that we've done. It's probably one of the smaller ones, but the relationship we made there along the way with the guy involved, that whenever they need us, he just gives us a call. We quickly work through it, and we get it going. And it's fun to help see those companies almost not even notice there was an issue. Their manufacturing floor didn't even know something was going on. And so this guy's able to kind of run around trying to get stuff fixed. In the meantime, we're in the background fixing it, and no one else in the company, even knows there's an issue or a blip. They get to keep working. The day was good, and by an hour or so later, when it's all fixed, they're up and running and doing everything just fine.
That's one of the things, as just being like a DBA in general, some of your biggest success stories aren't necessarily like the pats on the back that you're gonna get. A lot of the times, like, some of your biggest success stories are like, nobody even had to mention my name all week long, because things were just running smoothly. And like, and like as a DBA, you're like, wow, that was a great week. Like, that is a success story in itself, that there weren't those blips. There were no kind of performance halts or things grinding to a like a slow area of the day. Sometimes our biggest wins are when you don't even kind of notice we're around. Obviously, the people that we work with day to day and everyone that we have meetings with, they interact with us. People on the floors of warehouses who would never know the difference, that hey, today ran smoothly, I had a great day. I find pride in knowing the fact that sometimes they don't even know why they had a great day. And it was us, because we were behind the scenes keeping things just chugging along. Sometimes, like I said, that success story isn't always like, oh wow, a big prevalent hurrah and congratulations. Sometimes it's just hey, the lights were kept on and everything was running smoothly, and we didn't have to blame something on the DBA this week, so that's fantastic.
I kind of joke that we're like the officials in a game. If everybody walks out, nobody mentions the officials, good, bad, or ugly, that was a great night for the officials. And it's kind of like that for us. If a day or a few weeks or months goes by and nobody mentions the DBAs, then everybody's happy, because that means it's all up and running, and hopefully running faster and smoother, and there was no need to give us a call. Sometimes we're just like those officials. We don't want to be mentioned.
I think a lot of professions would agree with that. Just don't call my name for a week. I'm fine. And yeah, it's a perfect week for me.
Yeah. Wait, you hear that? No? Exactly. You're welcome.
Yep.
My profession in HR is one of those. So trust me, I agree.
Yeah, you get it.
Yeah. So let's talk future. What do you guys see as the trends of DMaaS over the next 5 to 10 years?
If you look at it, I think it's just going to continue on the way it is. I mean, we're going to continue to grow out. We're going to continue adding more bodies, more FTEs here at Moser, and expanding out our clients and such, getting clients upgraded from every 2-3 years, new version of SQL Server's out. Older versions are dropping off support, so those need to be migrated and moved up. We're going to have to continue doing that. But I don't know that there's really much, if we're doing everything, no one knows we exist, right? I mean, they're not calling us because everything's up and running, and that's going to just continue on. We're going to continue doing some migrations here and there as far as getting people up to the latest and greatest version of SQL. There's things that are being done in the infrastructure world that's making that easier for some people. Other people, they're not doing those bits, so it's going to be just as hard as always. But we can do it. That's not a problem. The number of migrations we do on our upgrades or whatever they are on a yearly basis, it seems like we're doing one every month or so.
That's something that's kind of, I don't know exactly when it started. When I first started in this, upgrades were not done very often because they could be brutally painful. Where now I feel like we have a process of upgrading, whether it's upgrading SQL Server version or hardware or migrating to the cloud, where we've done it enough now to where we're able to schedule it with a small window of downtime or sometimes a bigger window depending upon what all they want done. But we're able to migrate people, and if all goes well, we create that maintenance window. And when everybody comes back into work the next day or the next, or later that afternoon, whatever, they're on a whole new system and they never knew it. We migrated them to the cloud and we flipped the switch from on-prem to the cloud, or we went from one version of SQL Server to a new. And again, we just flipped the switch, and in the lunch hour while they were gone, all their reports went from one version to a next and they don't even notice it. But that's a lot of it is just, we're going to be doing a lot of that, helping a lot of people get to the cloud. We've really started helping people learn more about it. That's probably the biggest thing we're going to be doing for the next few years, and probably for quite a while, is helping them figure out what's best for them. We don't always know what's best for them. We don't always know everything that's tied into it, how their billing is done, how they pay for things, you name it. So we help them. We give them a plan if they want to migrate to the cloud, and then we begin working with them to figure out what is the best solution for them. Because there's so many different flavors out there now, whether it's AWS or Azure or whatever. We can really work with them to help them find what is best for them, and then make whatever that decision they make, we help them make that happen. And that's become pretty cool, because it's a cool process to be a part of. And you get to know everybody a little bit better. But by working with our client directly, we get a much better learning of what's out there, what they need to do, and what their sometimes much bigger future goals are that maybe we wouldn't have known before. So it's a very cool process in many different ways.
You need to tell me you don't schedule system upgrades at 10:30 on a Monday morning while the business has just started? Like,
yeah, no, we're getting close to it.
We've done it.
Yeah, we've done it.
As long as it takes 2 minutes for it to flip on, that's great. But the other day, I kid you not, I was at a major testing facility because I was taking a certification test. I passed, and I had my appointment at 12:15. So I arrived at 11:45. So plenty of time. I went in, gave my credentials, etc. Sat around, and there was one individual in front of me. The lady at the front desk, she's like, "I'm sorry, we're having a little bit of an issue here because they're upgrading our systems now. So your test is not showing up." And so I'm like, "Excuse me, what?" Like, I scheduled this 3 months ago. It's 12:15. I wanted to come in, during my lunchtime. So, it took me about 2 hours, less than 2 hours to finish the test. Yes, they were actually scheduling a system upgrade. So not only was I affected, obviously, the people that were already midway through their testing, taking other tests, medical tests, this is a large company. I'm not going to name them, but you can think about who it could be. They're a large test providing facility around the nation. And all those people that were in there were affected. So their test basically just shut down halfway through their process.
See, and that's poor planning
on a Monday.
Oh, that's miserable planning. And I think that's one thing that we do, and I can't speak for other companies, but I know, especially with Tony and Brian and I, will sit down and get very detail oriented about it, along with the client, and mapping it out. Not only the upgrade, but also the rollback if needed. Because hey, sometimes some things just don't go right. So we want to know what we've got to do. If it went bump, no big deal. Hey, here's what we have to do step by step. It's not a big problem. But with some of the hardware and the versions and the high availability stuff we can do, honestly, a number of our clients now have moved to doing these somewhat big upgrades to during the day on a weekday, because everybody's there. Everyone's already scheduled to work. No one's overly tired. No one was up till 2 a.m. doing testing or anything like that. And when we upgrade, when we get it done, everyone is there also to test it, because it's now production. And anybody will tell you, you get your quickest, your quickest answers when you test in production, as the joke is. But we've No, for us, we've tested it so many times before we get to that place that we know exactly what to expect. And sometimes, honestly, it just is easiest and best to do it on a morning or in the afternoon when we know everybody's there, everybody's available. We get to sync up. No one is worried about, it's not midnight, so no one's tired. You don't have to worry about someone coming in and someone being late or someone working from some location where something might go down. Honestly, it is just sometimes easier to do it right then and there and just get it done with. And we've done it a number of times and nobody knows. And believe me, that's lunch hour after that's a whole lot better. But we do a lot of testing to make sure we're ready to go in those instances. And we only do it when we know we're ready, but it's nice.
And we don't do it in a vacuum, right? We don't just plan it on our own and just do it and make it happen. It's well communicated, well thought out with on the client side. And they run it around up the flagpole, make sure that everybody there on their side's aware of it. Or at least we assume they do. No control over it. Obviously, there were probably a lot of people checking things for that testing facility and they just forgot to, check the schedule. And I mean, perfect example that they could have blocked that out, that scheduling, that window.
Exactly.
And blocked those out. Now, was it an emergency that it had to happen right away? Okay, let's just let the people that are taking tests finish and don't start new ones. Way better way to handle. But again, stuff does happen, and sometimes it has to happen during the middle of the day. And if something goes down, it goes down. We all want that to not happen and try to avoid it.
And I think to yours, Tony, and Brett's point that if it has to happen during the middle of the day, then you have a failsafe. You have something to, like you were saying, Brett, you have something that you can fall back on in case it doesn't work or in case the migration doesn't fully, accept. That's what didn't happen in that example that I gave, because I was sitting in the front and that poor lady was frantically calling the other centers around Indy to see if they had the same issues. And Tony, to your point, 2 out of the other 4 did not have any issues. It was just theirs and 2 other centers around Indy. So whether that was an issue or not that had been identified before, who knows, right? I don't want to speculate, but there was no failsafe. Everybody that was there was affected. And like my test, I was supposed to start at 12:15. I didn't start until 1. And so all those people didn't start their testing back up until 1. So imagine you being there, you're a med student. Like there were 3 med students there taking their testing, and they had gone through the first part. That's like I don't know, I'm not a med student, so I think it's a 4 or 5 part test on one day. So you're going through that and you just finish your first part, you're going through the second one, and then boom, it just stops. Like listen, I'm not a luck kind of guy. I'm not a karma, like, but listen, that's just a bad day waiting to happen right there.
Yep.
Years ago, I was going through a certification testing with one of my friends were with me, and I blew through mine, got it done, and then she went to do hers, and the testing computer crashed halfway through her exam. So literally lost all of her results of what she had already worked on, and basically it messed her up. I mean, mentally it messed her up. I mean, it just completely stressed her completely way out. It died. Now she has to start all over, and yeah, that exam didn't go well for her. Again, it's we're at the mercy of the computers at some point, and on some of that stuff, no matter what you do, no matter how much effort you put into it, something's going to break. It just is.
Always good to have that exit strategy, at least have that safety net, the thing that can maybe make you feel warm and fuzzy before you go ahead and jump into the deep end of a migration or an upgrade or anything like that. So the exit strategy is good to have, but sometimes even the exit strategies go a little sideways, and that's when things get real interesting for everybody involved. But the biggest thing is you're doing the due diligence of planning no matter what, doing the due diligence of making those exit strategies no matter what. Kind of things that I think Brett, Tony, and I always like to bring to the table, because at the end of the day, you want folks to feel like there is a way to remedy or at least get back to where we started if things don't go quite the way we wanted them to. And then we head back to the drawing board and we analyze, hey, this is what what went wrong, what we think went wrong. We were able to get back to where we started. Let's go back to the drawing board and try again in a week or so when we can plan for these new parameters that we have to figure out and deal with.
All right, gentlemen. So before we wrap up, what advice would you give to businesses considering adopting DMaaS for the first time?
Give us a call or get a hold of somebody at Moser and let's sit down and talk about it. And I think that's one of the things we're really good at is figuring out what works best for everybody. Our model isn't one fits all. I mean, we definitely make what we do fit. We can spread out to whatever size we need or whatever the client needs. We're open to a lot of things. So definitely give us a call and we'll come in and let you know what's best. And there are times it's shocking, but we don't always say we're the right fit. Like, actually, you don't need this. You may need something different. Or, you know what, this is perfect for you. Here's what we need. And this is what it's going to take. And I think that's what makes us really good. It works when it works, and when it doesn't need to work, we know it's not the right thing. We make sure to be honest with everybody and let them know that it's not right. That's where, hey, give us a call. You got nothing to lose. We're here to set up what's best for you guys, for our clients and potential clients.
Yeah, don't know that I can add much to that, Brett.
Well, and I think that's the biggest key is we all want to be successful. Like there's a few other guys on our team that help us out, but we want to be successful. So we're not going to set ourselves up for failure. We're going to make sure that we put ourselves in a place that our client can be happy with what we're doing, where we can provide them a service that is beneficial to them. We're not going to sell them something they don't need or something that doesn't quite fit. I mean, that's what's great about it is we want to make sure that our client the future client can be successful, and so can we. And we want to make sure we do it in a way that's best for both of us.
All right. And with that, as Brett mentioned, if you ever need some data management as a service, go to moserit.com. Look us up. Thanks to Brett, Tony, and Brian for joining us today. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Take care.
Thank you for listening in to this week's edition of ASCII Anything presented by Moser Consulting. We hope you enjoyed listening to Brett Canova, Tony Wilhelm, and Brian Woolwine come back to talk to us about data management as a service. Be sure to join us next time as we dive even deeper with our resident experts on what they're currently working on. Don't forget to share your ideas or topics with us through our social media. In the meantime, please remember to give us a rating and subscribe to our feed wherever you get your podcast. Until then, so long, everybody.